everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and we are here with the Season 4 Week 8 battle of the NPL, this week against Dallasboi1992's San Antonio Swamperts. Now, if you happen to miss last week's video, we did defeat Dave Fernab and the Montreal Cobalions to advance to a 7-0 record with a plus 24 differential, which is easily #1 in the entire league right now. But we have a really tough opponent this week. Dallas is very adept at the format. He's been playing it probably longer than I have, or at least has been exposed to it for a much longer period of time than I have. So he's not going to be an easy opponent. Plus, he's very good at preparation. Plus, he's also a good battler. So just those facts alone are going to make this week pretty challenging. But even more so, it's going to be difficult because he has what I consider to be a broken Pokemon in the format, and that's Landorus Eye. We did hold a suspect test on it before the season began. I voted to ban it, but it did manage to pass, and Landorus Eye really puts a ton of pressure on my team. I have some good responses to it. Megaladios is a good response. Special defensive. Talonflame can be a good response, but can easily run Rock Slide. And Gliscor can be a good response, but can easily run Hidden Power Ice. So those aren't the best responses just due to the quad weaknesses that Gliscor and Talonflame have. But Megaladios is at least a good check, if not counter, to Landorus Eye, depending on how I EV it. But that's definitely the biggest threat to my team here. But on top of that, he also has some other pretty big threats. I'll go ahead and mention his team: Landorus Eye, Heatran, Skarmory, Conkeldurr, Empoleon, Dragonite, Gastron, Electros, Celebi, Metagross, and Mega Alakazam. Now, Mega Alakazam is also a really big threat here because it's a very fast Pokemon. It outspeeds my entire team, and it's just bulky enough, if EV'd properly, to take hits from all of my priority users. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue here because it's almost guaranteed to get off a big hit on something, and it's going to be difficult to really prepare for that. So other notable threats on his team: Agility Metagross could be very, very difficult in my preparation, just because in a similar situation to the Mega Alakazam, it doesn't take very much damage from my priority users. So if he gets up in agility, I really have to take a big hit from it to be able to weaken it with something. So that's kind of an issue. And in addition to something like Scarf Heatran, it's kind of a threat because my team overall is kind of weak to fire. And if he has something like Scarf, Fire Blast, or Lava Plume or something, that can just tear through my team. My only real switch-ins are going to be things like Wobbuffet or things like maybe Megaladios if I'm running Roost, or potentially a specially defensive Gliscor if he's not running Hidden Power Ice. So just overall, the matchup is kind of tricky this week, and I'm really tempted in my team preparation to run a dual fighting core of Breloom Lucario, just because he does not really have things that want to take hits from that core, except he has this Celebi here, which kind of makes that difficult. But I'm still going to try anyways. I'll talk about this a little bit more here in the team building process, but I'm still going to try to run a dual fighting core and try to beat him that way, just because I don't really think Celebi's matchup is very strong overall, as I easily could switch in things like Megaladios and Talonflame, Gliscor, Jirachi, all these, and even Clefable, all really wall Celebi very well. So I really don't expect him to bring it, especially because it's easily considered setup fodder for Talonflame. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and jump on over to the team building, and I'll show you what I've come up with. Alright, and here we are with the team. I'm a little short on time, so I'm going to go through this pretty briefly. But I did start off the building with the dual fighting core of Lucario and Breloom. The Lucario set originally was going to be a Choice Banded set, but just the thought of Celebi just kind of dissuaded me from doing that, even though I didn't really think he would bring it. I still didn't want to bring a dual fighting core, both of which was very weak to Celebi, so I wanted to at least have something for it. Lucario is going to be my answer. Not necessarily an answer, but it's going to be able to hit Celebi hard enough, I believe, to do what it's supposed to do. So I'm running a primarily specially attacking or especially offensive Lucario here. This will let me do a lot of damage to things like Skarmory, Heatran. Even Gastrodon is not going to be appreciating max special attack R-Spheres from a Life Orb Lucario. So just overall, this thing's matchup is pretty strong. I do have to go max speed this week just because I want to outspeed Timid Heatran, and this is the only way to do so. So yeah, and then I'm running dual priority Extreme Speed Vacuum Wave because Landorus Eye is a threat, and because Mega Alakazam is a threat, and Metagross is a threat, so I need as much priority as I can. And having both Vacuum Wave and Extreme Speed on this is quite useful to that end. So that's the first mon here. Next up is a Breloom. Now this is a set that, in hindsight, I'm not that happy with bringing this week, just because he does have Celebi, and if he does bring Celebi, despite its matchup, it's going to be useless. It's going to be effectively useless this week. So just based upon that fact alone, I probably should have done something a little bit different here. But regardless, I brought the classic Gen 4 Cancer Breloom in Substitute Spore Focus Punch Seed Bomb. This set is very, very good against this team if he does not bring Celebi, but if he brings Celebi, it's useless. So we'll just kind of see what happens on that. But he has nothing that wants to take a Focus Punch outside of the Celebi, so that's something that I'm definitely hoping to lean on a little bit this week, and putting something to sleep is also always nice. So that's the Dual Fighting Core. Pretty solid overall if he does not bring Celebi, but yeah, so next up is the Raikou. Now, this set was a little bit tricky, and I give some credit to my friend Kyle for helping me with this set, because I really was unsure on what to do with Raikou this week. I knew it had a good matchup, but I wasn't really sure the best way to use it. But I do like this set, and I decided to run an Air Balloon on it this week because it does give me an extra check to Landorus Eye in the event that it is a double down and it's Raikou versus Landorus Eye. This prevents him from going for Earth Power. I could have run a Shuka Berry, but I felt Air Balloon was just better because I didn't want Raikou to take a bunch of damage unnecessarily from an Earth Power. And I do kind of anticipate a Yachi Berry Landorus Eye this week. So Air Balloon with Hidden Power Ice was essential, and I'm running Toxic to cover things like the Gastrodon and the Electros if he wants to try to switch those into this, and then Shadow Ball Voltage, which were just the optimal coverage options here. So that's the idea with this. Next up is the Megalodios. This is probably my top win condition this week, along with the Dual Fighting Core if he doesn't bring Celebi. But if he does bring Celebi, then this will be the top win con. And that Bolt Beam coverage of Ice Beam Thunderbolt is very strong against this whole team, especially when supported by Earthquake, as this actually has super effective coverage for a very substantial percentage of his team. So I'm hoping that'll do pretty well this week. It also has the ability to take a hit from literally anything on his roster, so this should be able to get in a couple kills this week. Then next up is the Duke Jirachi. This is going to be more or less a Landorus Eye lure. Notice how I'm having to tailor a lot of my mons to be able to take out Landorus Eye. That's why I think Landorus Eye is pretty broken in this format, at least against teams like mine, just because it's able to put so much pressure on a balance-oriented team. And like, I have to have so many things with resist berries and ice moves when he can easily just run a Yachi Berry and just take me out anyways, because it is really a relatively bulky Pokemon. So just Landorus Eye is too strong in this format. I can't stress that enough. Anyways, I am running Stealth Rocks on this because Stealth Rocks are vital for things like Dragonite, and just to get damage on Landorus Eye in the future if I'm not able to hit it with an Ice Punch. And Thunder Wave is nice because he does have a lot of things that can run agility or speed boosting moves, and I want to slow those the heck down, and Drain Punch is there for coverage against things like Heatran, and it just kind of prevents me from getting hard walled by things like Metagross. So that's the idea with this. I kind of think U-Turn would have been also a decent idea against the Thunder Wave, or instead of Thunder Wave, or maybe even instead of Drain Punch, just because momentum is pretty nice against a team like his. But hindsight is hindsight, and we will go ahead and proceed to the next Pokemon. That is Talonflame. This set also can be a win condition this week. I am running a Chardy Berry, which is the Rock Resist Berry, which there's a lot of things on his team that can run Rock type moves. So I felt pretty required to run a Chardy Berry this week, and after Bulk Up I can easily take any rock move from any Pokemon, but even without the Bulk Up I have a little bit of defense investment with nearly max HP, so I should be able to take a hit from anything. Sheer Force Conkeldurr has a very small chance of taking me out with a non-Life Orb Rock Slide. If he's Life Orb, then I'm just going to die, but luckily I do have Priority Brave Bird if he is Life Orb, so I'll be able to do a bunch of damage to him with that. But Conkeldurr's kind of a threat here. Actually, Conkeldurr's a pretty big threat to my entire team, especially if it's like a Cove Berry set or something like that, so I'm going to have to play around that very carefully if he brings that. But yeah, that's the team. I'm running a more special defensive set this week as well, just because this lets me 1v1 Gastrodon if I need to. I believe Gastrodon cannot 2-hit KO me unless he has a little bit of, with Scald, unless he has a little bit of investment. And this, of course, gives me a essentially perfect switch into Celebi if he does decide to bring it. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about the team. I had to bring pretty much all my priority options except Sneasel. I almost brought Sneasel this week, but I just didn't really think it was likely that he would bring Celebi, and that would be the reason I would bring is to Pursuit Trap the Celebi. So, yeah, nothing else to say here. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the match, and I'll show you what happened. Okay, and here we are with the match, and the team preview. My heart kind of sank a little bit, to be honest, because he did bring the Celebi. So now I'm kind of going to be playing 5v6, which is something that I really didn't want to have to do this game, as Breloom essentially is not very helpful, really against his entire team. He really seems like he over-prepared for Breloom. Now I'm kind of upset that I fell into his trap there, but yeah, Breloom's not going to be too useful this game. It's going to be essentially fodder, maybe to get a little bit of damage off on something like Conkeldurr or Heatran, I guess. No, probably not. Probably only going to get damage off against things like the Skarmory or the Conkeldurr, so Breloom overall is not super useful. this game, but Talonflame is looking like it can be a pretty good win con if I can weaken the Heatran, and I need a little bit of damage on the Conkeldurr as well, as I have no attack investment, so there's no way I'll be able to KO Conkeldurr with Brave Bird. Lucario is looking okay overall in the matchup, but it's going to do some damage to everything, I'll say that, but it's not going to OHKO very many things either. So Lucario is just going to be kind of a wall breaker per se, and Megaladios is the big win con this game for sure, as Megaladios' coverage here actually hits the majority of this team. I just need a little damage on Conkeldurr, like I mentioned before, just to get it in range of my Pokemon, and I also need a little bit of damage on Mega Alakazam to be able to take that out. And Raikou is just going to be good for momentum purposes, but overall it's not going to be a huge threat to anything on his team. So just in general, I do feel a little bit out prepared just at team preview, mainly because of the Celebi throwing off my entire game plan, but we'll just kind of see what happens. I'm gonna have to play around it very well in order to have any chance of winning this game, unfortunately. So jumping on into the battle, I decided to lead off with my Raikou, as overall it's my best lead. I did kind of expect the Landorus, and this gives me the perfect opportunity, because I'm on the air balloon, to just go ahead and go for the Hidden Power Ice without any fear of something like OHKO in me as like an Earth Power or something, and he just goes for the U-turn, which is fine. He goes straight on out into his Conkeldurr, which is fine. Here I misclicked. I should have gone for the Volt Switch, but instead I just hard switched into my Breloom, and he gets a critical hit with Drain Punch. Now I'm going to pause. This was actually a very, very important turn in the game. If he did not get the critical hit with Drain Punch, I would not been in Mach Punch range from this. Therefore, I'd be able to get off either a Spore if he does not go into Celebi, or I get off a Seed Bomb on the incoming Celebi. Now it turns out later on that his Celebi is Assault Vest, so any bit of damage I get on the Celebi is damage that is there to stay. So this critical hit was very, very important. Based upon that fact, getting any damage on Conkeldurr helps my entire team just in breaking through his team, and any damage on Celebi as well is going to help my Lucario and help things like my Megaladios and Jirachi even to put in a lot of work later on. So that crit was huge, to say the least. Now, I am going to have to just sack my Breloom, as it really didn't have a great matchup otherwise, and I just wanted a little bit of damage on Conkeldurr with a potential Seed Bomb, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get that. So now I really am at a 5 to 6 deficit from essentially the get-go. Now here, I go for the Brave Bird, and he has a Cope Berry, which is fine. I somewhat expected that, but I knew I could take a Rock Slide unless he got a very high roll, and he got the high roll. And just to clarify, that was a roll probably in the upper 80 or 90 percentile of the possible rolls, and that's huge. That's absolutely huge, because now I lost my Talonflame, and now I'm at a 4 to 6 deficit on turn 4, which is absolutely horrible. I only have 75 or 25% damage on this Conkeldurr, and between Breloom and Talonflame, I should have been able to get Conkeldurr weakened down enough to where things like Megaladios and Raikou and Lucario could put in a lot of work against the rest of his team, but that's just not the case due to some really unfortunate RNG this match, but I guess I can't do much about that. I've been pretty lucky in that I haven't been unlucky for the season so far, but this game unfortunately did not follow that same path. But anyways, I'm going to go into my Raikou, because now I'm forced to take a bunch of damage with something just to weaken this Conkeldurr, which is so annoying. But I'm just going to Volt Switch into my Megaladios, which is the one thing I really didn't want to have to take damage on, and he just goes for the Drain Punch, which was expected here. Now I'm just going to Mega Evolve and go for the Ice Beam, kind of hoping to get the freeze for a little bit of justice, but unfortunately I have to take an Ice Punch now, and now I'm in range of Mach Punch. Now this is really bad. Megaladios was the only way I really had a chance of winning this game at this point, and the fact that I had to take all that damage with it, or on it, just to get damage on the Conkeldurr is terrible. At this point I'm just avoiding the 6-0, because I have to get a lot of damage on Conkeldurr to take it out with anything else on my team. So yes, that's a little bit of my fault in the preparation, but the high roll and the critical hit on Breloom were highly contributing toward this situation I'm in right now. But anyways, we are now on turn 6 and in terrible position. I have to go into my Jirachi predicting the Mach Punch, and now I'm just going to be able to go for I believe the Ice Punch, trying to take this thing out, or the Drain Punch to get a little health back, whatever. I'm able to take out the Conkeldurr, so that's good. We avoid the 6-0, and unfortunately I'm not able to get my rocks there just because I was too worried about him going for something like a knockout or an Earthquake and doing a lot of damage to my Jirachi. Now here, I have to go for the Thunder Wave, hoping that he doesn't have Substitute. I knew it was kind of obvious, but I needed to get a Paralysis on this thing such that I could beat it with my Lucario or my Megaladios later on. But he has Substitute, so that's good preparation on his part, but I am invested enough in attack on this Jirachi to be able to break the Substitute with an Ice Punch. So I lose my Jirachi, but at least the Zam doesn't have a Substitute, and we're going to go into my Raikou knowing that I can take, at least unless he gets another like max roll, I can take a Psy Shock from a modest Mega Alakazam, but he just has Psychic, so I'm able to go for the Volt Switch, just in case he switched into something like the Heatran. I didn't want to go for the Shadow Ball there. and then be in an even worse position. But now he goes into a Skarmory, which turns out to be a Rocky Helmet variant, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I am a especially offensive, primarily Lucario. I'm able to do a lot of damage to the Skarmory, and he just goes for the Iron Head, doing negligible damage to the Lucario. But now he can just switch into his Assault Vest Celebi, and this would have been so nice to get damage on with Breloom, because an Aura Sphere plus a Flash Cannon is going to do enough damage to where Megalodius would be able to take this thing out. And yeah, that's going to be about all she wrote as. He goes for the U-turn, and he's going to go straight into his Scarf Heatran and just clean me up with Lava Plume. So we kind of got bodied this week. Dallas prepared very well. I can't really knock him at all for his preparation. He obviously came to this match well prepared, and it showed. He played very well as well. As for our end, I think my preparation was a little bit subpar. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it wasn't exactly the easiest week for me overall school-wise. But regardless, preparation could have been better on my end, but the RNG also contributed heavily to the outcome here. I think I still would have been in trouble regardless in terms of picking up the win this week, because he had the Celebi, and I really didn't have the best opportunities to capitalize on that outside of Talonflame, but he did have Rocky Helmets, Skarmory, in addition to Scarf Heatran, which likely had something along the lines of Stone Edge. So even if I was able to bring in Celebi, or bring in Talonflame against the Celebi, I think he would have been able to counter that pretty well. So overall, I think I got out prepared this week, and also out hacks, but what can I do about that? But anyways, that's the game. Unfortunately, we pick up our first loss of the season. We are now 7-1. However, we are still number 1 overall in the league, as the other one-loss team, Trev's team, did lose this week as well. So that's the silver lining in all this, I suppose. And I also don't have to really be as concerned about maintaining the undefeated record now going through the final stretch of the season. But next week we have our rematch against the Foghorn Channel and the Colorado Avalugs, and last time we 6-0'd them, and I'm going to be looking to repeat that again as well. So we will see what happens there. But thanks for watching, guys. Sorry we weren't able to pick up the win this week, but we will definitely make up for it next week against Colorado. So I will see you then. Peace.